Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Well, you folks ready for re-education facilities and training? This is not something new or a new concept to re-educate dissidents. This goes all the way back into communist Russia, the Russian Revolution, the communist revolution in Russia, the revolution in China, and other such nations that have gone through similar things. And this has been rumored about for years, that this is the type of thing that we need to do here. But since November 3rd, and especially January 6th, the rhetoric and the subject has come up. Actually, it's getting to be quite often. Not just that there needs to be some level of re-education programs, which AOC, former CIA director John Brennan, and other of their nature have said similar things, whether directly or at least alluded to, that there needs to be some kind of re-education policies or funding to re-educate or programs to re-educate, all of these misguided right-wing extremists. And that's part and goes along with it, is that folks like you and I, we're not just, conservative or right-wing or constitutional patriots or anything like that anymore. The term right-wing extremist and even the T word is being used quite often. In fact, to the point that just the other day, a CNN contributor likened right-wing folks and said that they should be treated like ISIS was treated, how we dealt with ISIS. That's pretty harsh. The amount of people, not just in public figures, that have supported, for instance, all the big tech censorship, we'll get it out in a minute, of conservative folk, Trump supporters, people like that. There's been a lot of just regular people that's been supporting this. Those of us that's been, for the lack of better words, let's just use the common term conspiracy theorists, and I know most of us don't like that, for a while. We've all been saying this for years, that this is what they want to do. This is a desire of theirs. This is where it could all end up. That if you are right-leaning, conservative right-leaning, that, you may end up in one someday. It may happen. And we are in a place now that this is happening, or at least being talked about to happen. Let me clarify. This morning, they announced that they identified 2 National Guardsmen that's now stationed in Washington, D.C., that have right-wing extremist viewpoints. And so they have pulled them out, and they're actually now considering, seeking military disciplinary actions against them. They haven't committed any crimes. They haven't, as far as what we're hearing in the news, they haven't done anything. They just align themselves with right-wing extremist viewpoints. And before you start to kind of tune this out and say, I'm not a right-wing extremist, we all know what right-wing extremists are. I mean, these people are like skinheads, or they're neo-Nazis, or even though I would argue that they're not right-wing, but hey, or, these crazy guys that, want to blow things up. That's what a right-wing extremist is. I'm not that way, Sure, I'll defend myself, and I have strong conservative viewpoints, but I'm not a right-wing extremist. If you think that way, you need to start doing a little research on what their definition of right-wing extremist is. Just look at Wikipedia, for instance. They say that people in the Patriot movement is a right-wing extremist. People that hold to traditional constitutional beliefs, that are anti-abortion, people that are pro-gun, people that believe that that we need less government, or that our government is gone out of control. If you ever posted things like that on any kind of social media, or talked about your pro-gun stance, or supporting President Trump, uh, or against things like New World Order or the Great Reset, or talked about other conspiracies like, the Illuminati or global elites or anything like that, you are considered now a right-wing extremist. Um, if you have very staunch religious beliefs, these are some of the things that, are now being classified as right-wing. We are on a very slippery slope, folks. And like many things that's happened over the past 12 months, this issue is picking up speed, and it's picking up speed quite quickly. Several years ago, there was a lot of talk about Fema camps. Fema camps for quarantining people. In fact, that's kind of where I kind of got started, not necessarily started, but I definitely had a little 15 minutes of fame. It was about 15 seconds, when I was a whistleblower for some DHS training that I had received. It was funded by DHS, and the training was put on through FEMA, and it was basically rounding people up by force, putting them through decontamination, forced vaccinations, and putting them into quarantine. That was the training that I received. There's a documentary that documented my story on that. But this has been around for a while, and then people kind of forgot about it. And then since this big health crisis, people have been talking about it again. And even, the state of New York has proposed a bill to forcibly contain people that they believe pose a health risk to the community. Detain and contain. And now we've moved on from that to folks that have these radical right-wing ideas that just aren't fit for normal society. I believe it was on my Patreon page a few days ago, and I cannot remember, but I posted an image that's going around online. And at first I thought it was a joke, but it's an image complaining basically that the far left, the far socialist left, does not have any representation in American politics. And this is kind of something that's growing. And if you noticed that the far, far socialist left, they don't like, Joe Biden either. They may have voted for him because they didn't like Trump, but they're not really for him either, like Antifa and stuff. They're still claiming that they don't want him in office either. But their claim is is that basically someone like AOC is considered a centrist, that Nancy Pelosi is considered right-leaning, and that folks like you and I are right-wing extremists. This, I know, it's laughable, isn't it? But the point is that this is becoming the new narrative. Who knows what will happen over the next 24 to 48 hours as the inauguration takes place. There's certainly a buildup, and there's this tension and suspense that some kind of right-wing crazy person's going to do something. In fact, there's even rumors and talk online that that a lot of the soldiers, their ammunition has been removed from them because there's fear that there could be right-wing extremists still embedded in these National Guard troops that could, pose a threat to the incoming president and vice president. Who knows? Will there be some kind of, false flag event? I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me. The point is, though, the new labeling, and this isn't really new, but it's certainly being talked about more. It's become more of a normal term that's used to describe folks like you and I. Once that happens, once they condition the American population that folks like you and I are extremists and that we should not be in society, that we should either be put through some type of re-education camps. And if you don't know what I mean by that, maybe you should do a little research on what these re-education camps were in China and Russia, especially China. And then those of us that, just refuse to go or are incapable of re-educating and turning back into normal society, then, well, we just don't need to be around. And that's when the doors open for things like what history saw in Nazi Germany. This is a very, very slippery slope that we're seeing. And like I said, it's picking up speed quite well. And it's not just these extreme left leaders that are seeing this alone. Like I said, they're talking about it on mainstream news. And every time I see some type of post like this, maybe someone in the news or someone in politics that said something alluding to that, if it's on social media, I always try to look at comments. And what surprises me is the amount of people that are commenting that support this idea, the amount of people that support the censorship online of conservatives, the amount of people that support funding some type of re-education program, because they say that, I believe it was John Brennan, the former CIA director, that said that it's not enough that these Trump supporters and conservatives apologize for what they've done, apologize for this false claim of election weirdness or the things that they did at the Capitol. It's not enough that they apologize, that they must go through some process to prove their allegiance, to America, right? Because being a patriot and upholding the Constitution isn't enough. Do you see where I'm going with this? Do you see where this is headed? Do you see how dangerous this is of more and more the talk of labeling a large segment, actually, of American people as being this extremist that should not be part of our society, that should not have a place in our society? This is becoming I believe, quite a slippery slope, and it's something that we should definitely take notice of, be cautious of it, because as this happens more and more, and as it builds up steam and more support and becomes more of a normal idea, it definitely puts folks like you and I in a very dangerous place, because with all the technology that exists today, if you've ever posted anything online that they deem as extremist, well, it's there, and they're able to find it. And that's basically what they're doing with these National Guardsmen that they said are, extremist views, is because posts that they've made. And they didn't say what the posts were, but it must have been pretty mild, because if it had been really horrible, very, very racist, or very, very violent, I'm sure they would have said that. So I'm going to assume that it probably wasn't anything of that bad. Which is why I've been promoting this VPN service, so I'm going to go ahead and give you a little plug, or give it a plug. It's something that we all need. Good VPN service. It's a way to mask your presence online. It keeps people from tracking your activity, even governments. And there's a lot of them online. There's a lot of companies that sell VPN services, but they're not all the same. And even the ones that offer a really good quality service, if you kind of dig into the background of some of these companies, as we've been finding out lately, some of these companies have a lot of connections with companies that I don't know that I would trust, these big tech companies. So the one that I'm working with is called Viper VPN. They're headquartered in Switzerland, which is basically the most secure, has the most secure and best privacy laws on the planet. They have a really good service. The prices are not very bad at all. You can purchase it monthly, annually, every 3 years, and of course the more you purchase, the cheaper it gets. They're running a New Year's special that's still in place right now. So if you want to get on there and sign up, you can get a year's service for, I think, less than $50 right now. And the service will work upon up to 30 different devices. It's a really good service to use. There'll be a link in the description below. But back to all of this FEMA camp, internment camp, re-education camp stuff. I don't think we're that far off from it. I don't think that that it's an extreme view anymore to think that this could happen here in the United States. It's being talked about so much. And if something happens over the next couple of days that's portrayed as a really bad thing, regardless of whether it's real or not, it will only fortify this sentiment that certain people in this country need to either be locked up or put through some type of brainwashing before they're allowed to be part of normal society. So just kind of sit back at this point and watch and see what happens, because I don't think we're too far off from that. All right, folks. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.